Hey guys, welcome back. So today we'll be looking at examples when it comes to comparing fractions. Let's look at our first example. Let's say we needed to compare these two fractions here, 5 over 7 and 15 over 21. Remember, there are three different methods that you can use when you are comparing your fractions. The first method is to find your least common multiple or your least common denominator. The second method is to turn your fractions into decimal form. And then the third method is to cross multiply. And remember, there is a warning if you cross multiply. Make sure when you cross multiply that you add your numbers here on the top to represent the numerator. Okay, so let's get back to our first example. If I were to use method number 2, let's use method number 2 first, and that's my decimal format. If I turn my 5 over 7 into a decimal, I'm going to get 0.7142, and it keeps going on and on and on. If I turn my 15 over 21 into a decimal, I'm also going to get 0.7142, and that's going to keep going on as well. So by looking at these two decimals, I can see that these two decimals are exactly the same. So this lets me know that my 5 over 7 and my 15 over 21 are equal. Let's look at another method. Let's say we didn't know that. Let's look at the cross multiply method. So if I have my 5 over 7 here, and then my 15 over 21 here, I'm going to cross multiply. 5 times 21, this is going to give us 105. If I do 7 times 15, this is also going to give us 105. If I compare these two numbers, you see that 105 equals 105. So again, we see that 5 over 7 is equal to 15 over 21. And now let's try the LCM or LCD method, the first method here. And I need to find a common denominator. So I'll do my 5, and so I'll write my fractions here. And I need to find a common denominator. So the multiples of 7, we have 7, 14, 21, 28, and I'll stop here for now. And for my 21 common multiples, 21, 42, 63, and 84, and I'll stop here for now. The common multiple between the 7 and 21 is going to be the number 21. I have a 21 here and a 21 here. So that means I need to get 21 in my denominator so that we can compare. So let's look at my 7. I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 1, 2, 3, because that's going to give me 21. And then for my 21 here, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by just 1. That's all I got there. So that's what I'm going to do here. Then I'm going to multiply. So 5 times 3 is 15. 7 times 3 is 21. We already got that. 15 times 1 is 15. And then 21 times 1 is 21. We also already have that. So by looking at these two fractions, notice here you have 15 over 21 and 15 over 21 again. Then yes, again, we know that these two fractions are equal. So your final answer here to make this a true statement is going to be 5 over 7 equals 15 over 21. Let's look at 3/10, and let's compare that with 1/4. Let's look at the common denominator method. Let's find a common denominator. So I'm going to put my 3/10 here and my 1/4 here. I'm going to find the multiples of my 10 and my 4. So for my 10, we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and I'll stop here for now. And then for my 4, we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and I'll stop here for now. The common denominator between the 10 and 4 is going to be the number 20. A 20 here and a 20 here. So that means I need to get 20 in my denominator. I'm going to squeeze it right here. So I need to get 20 in my denominator so that we can compare. So by looking at my 10, I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 1, 2. And my 4, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so now I'm going to multiply. So 3 times 2, this is going to give me 6. And then we have here 1 times 5. this is going to equal 5. If I compare my 6 over 20 and my 5 over 20, I'm going to see that my 6 over 20 is greater. So this fraction here is from the 3/10 here. So I know that 3/10 is greater than my 1 over 4. Now let's go ahead and cross multiply. So let's say we didn't know to do the common denominator method. So let's cross multiply. So I'm going to do 4 times 3, this is 12. And then 10 times 1, this is 10. If I compare my 12 and my 10, I'm going to see that my 12 is larger, and that means that my 3 over 10 is also larger. So again, we see that 3/10 is greater than 1 over 4. So we did the common denominator method, we cross multiply. So let's just try the decimal format now. So 3 over 10 as a decimal, this is going to equal 0.30. And then 1 over 4 as a decimal, this is going to equal 0.25. If I compare these two decimals, my 0.30 and my 0.25, you're going to see that this decimal here is larger than the 1 over 4, which was the 0.25. And remember, although you see here 3 over 10 is greater than 1 over 4, you can also write this as 1 over 4 is less than 3/10. 9 over 28, we're going to compare this with 5 over 14. Let's try cross multiplying first. Let's just try this method first. If I cross multiply 14 times 9, this is going to equal 126. And then if I do 28 times 5, this is going to equal 140. So if I compare my 126 and my 140, I'm going to see that 140 is larger. So this tells me that 9 over 28 is less than 5 over 14, because this number here is greater. Let's try decimal format next. So 9 over 28 as a decimal, this is going to equal 0.3214, and it keeps going down. If I do my 5 over 14 into a decimal, you're going to get 0.357142, and it's going to go all the way down. If I compare these two decimals, I have 0.321 here, 0.357. You're also going to see that this decimal here is greater than the decimal up here. Now let's try the common denominator method, the first method here. I'm going to find the common denominator between these two fractions here. So for my multiples of 28, we have 28, 56, 84, 112, and I'll stop here for now. For my 14, we have 14, 28, 42, and 56, and I'll stop here for now. The common denominator between these two is going to be the number 28, 28 here, and 28 here. So that means I need to get 28 in my denominator so that we can compare. I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by just 1, because I have just 1 right here. And then for my 14, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2. All right, so now let's multiply. So 9 times 1, this is going to equal 9, and that's going to be over 28. And then 5 times 2, this is going to equal 10, and that's also going to be over 28. If I compare my 9 over 28 and my 10 over 28, you're going to see that your 10 over 28 is larger. So again, we see that your 9 over 28 is less than 5 over 14. Let's look at this example here. We have 9 15s. We're going to compare that to 11 15s. So by looking at this example here, notice that my denominators are the same. And you're going to see that your 11 is greater. So 9 over 15 is less than 11 over 15. And remember, you can write it as 11 15ths is greater than 9 15ths. And let's say you did not notice that at the beginning. So let's say you did cross multiply. Let's try method 3. If I cross multiply, I'm going to do 15 times 9, this is going to equal 135. And then if you do 15 times 11, this is going to equal 165. So by looking at these two numbers here, again, you're going to see that my 165, which is equivalent to this fraction here, is greater than your 135. So it takes us back to this statement here. So we know this statement here is true. So let's say you try method number 2, 9 divided by 15, you're going to get 0.6. And then if you do 11 divided by 15, you're going to get 0.7333 repeating. And if you compare these two decimals, again, you're going to see here that this decimal, this fraction, is greater than this fraction here. Let's look at 2/3. We're going to compare this with 1/5. So let's look at the common denominator method. Let's do this one first. So I'm going to list my 2/3 here and my 1/5 here. And we're going to look for the multiples of my 3 and my 5. Multiples of 3, we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and I'll stop here for now. And my 5, we have 5, 10, 15, 20, and I'll stop here for now. The least common multiple between these two is going to be the number 15. So that means I need to get 15 in my denominator so that we can compare. So for my 2/3, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then my 1/5, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2, 3. Now let's multiply. So 2 times 5, this is going to equal 10. 3 times 5, 15. 1 times 3 is 3. And then 5 times 3 is 15. If I am comparing these two fractions here, you're going to see that my 10/15 is greater than your 3/15. So to make this a true statement, you're going to say 2/3 is greater than 1/5. Let's try the decimal form, method number 2. Let's try this. So 2/3 as a decimal, you're going to get 0.66 repeating. And then if I do 1/5 as a decimal, you're going to get 0.2. So if I compare these two decimals here, you're going to see that your 0.6 repeating is greater than this decimal. Now let's cross multiply. Let's try the third method. So 5 times 2, this is going to equal 10. And then 3 times 1, this is going to equal 3. So if I compare my 10 and my 3, I'm going to see that this fraction here is greater than your 1/3. So again, you're going to see that to make this statement true, is 2/3 is greater than 1/5. Let's look at 1/2, and we're going to compare that to 3/8. So let's try the cross multiply method, method number 3. So I'm going to do 1/2 and then my 3/8 here. I'm going to cross multiply. So we're going to do 8 times 1 first. This is going to equal 8. And then 2 times 3, this is going to equal 6. If I compare my 8 and my 6, you're going to see that 1/2 is greater than your 3/8. So to make this a true statement, it's going to be 1/2 is greater than 3/8. Now let's try method number 2. Let's look at my decimal form method. Let's say we weren't sure of the answer. We wanted to double check our answer. So 1/2 as a decimal, this is going to be 0.5. And then 3/8 as a decimal, this is going to be 0.375. If I compare these two decimals here, you're going to see that 1/2 is greater than the decimal at the bottom here. So again, to make this statement true, 1/2 is greater than 3/8. Now let's try method number 1. So I'm going to squeeze right here, and 3/8 here. The multiples for my 2 and my 8. My 2, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. My 8, we have 8, 16, 24, 32, and I'll stop here for now. If I compare my 2 and my 8, least common multiple between the two is going to be the number 8. So I need to get 8 in my denominator so that we can compare. So looking at my 2, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2, 3, 4. And for my 8, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1. All right, now I'm going to multiply 1 times 4. This is going to equal 4. And then 3 times 1, this is going to equal 3. If I compare my 4 over 8 and my 3 over 8, then you're going to see here that your 4/8 is greater than your 3/8. And the fraction that's correlated to the 4/8 is my 1/2, which is what we have here. So again, we see that this is a true statement that 1 over 2 is greater than 3 over 8. And remember, if you see 3/8 is less than 1/2, this is also the same thing. Let's look at 10/16 and 5/8. Let's first do method 2, decimal form. So I have my 10 over 16 as a decimal. This is going to equal 0.625. And my 5/8 as a decimal, this is also going to equal 0.625. So by looking at these two decimals, I see that they are equal. So that means that my 10 over 16 is equal to my 5 over 8. Now let's try another method to see. Let's cross multiply. So if I cross multiply, so 8 times 10, this is going to give me 80. And then 16 times 5, this is also going to give me 80. So again, we see that my 10 over 16 is equal to my 5 over 8 because when I cross multiply, I get 80 on both sides. And now let's try method number 1. Let's do the common denominator. So 10/16, 5/8 here. The multiples of 16, you're going to get 16, 32, 48, and then 64. And the multiples of 8, you're going to get 8, 16, 24, and then 32. Least common multiples between the two is going to be my 16 here. So that means I need to get 16 in my denominator so that we can compare. So for my 16, I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by just 1. And for my 8, I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 1, 2. So that's going to give me 16 in my denominator. So now let's multiply 10 times 1. This is going to equal 10. And then 5 times 2. This is also going to equal 10. So again, we see that 10 over 16 equals 10 over 16. So this is going to make my statement a true statement here. 10 over 16 equals 5 over 8. Let's look at 3 over 5, and we're going to compare that to 3/4. So let's go ahead and try decimal form. Let's try this first. So 3 over 5 equals, as a decimal, we're going to get 0.6, and then my 3 over 4 as a decimal, you're going to get 0.75. So if I compare these two decimals here, you're going to see that this decimal here is greater than my 0.6. So to make this a true statement, then I'm going to say 3 over 5 is less than 3/4, or 3/4 is greater than 3/5. So let's try cross multiply. 4 times 3, this is going to equal 12. And then 5 times 3, this is going to equal 15. So if I'm comparing these two fractions here, you're going to see your 15 is greater than your 12. So that means that your 3 over 4 is greater than your 3/5. And this is what we have here. So we know this is a true statement. And let's try one more method, the least common multiple way. So let's see how this looks here. Multiples of 5, 5, 10, 15, 20. Multiples of 4, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. The least common multiple between the two is going to be the number 20. So I need to get 20 in my denominator so that we can compare. So let's look at my 5. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2, 3, 4. And for my 4, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to multiply 3 times 4. This is 12. And then you have 5 times 4. That's 20. Next, you have 3 times 5. This is 15. And then 4 times 5, this is also 20. So if I compare my 12 and my 15, you're also going to see here that your 15 over 20 is greater than your 12 over 20. This 15 over 20, don't forget, is for that fraction here. So again, we see that your 3 over 5 is less than 3 over 4. Let's try 1 over 3, and we're going to compare that to 2/9. So let's try the method 1. Let's find a common denominator. So 1 over 3 here and 2 over 9 here. Then list the multiples of my 3 and my 9. So for my 3, we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I'll stop here for now. For my 9, we have 9, 18, 27, 36. And I'll stop here for now. And the common denominator between the two, the least common denominator, is going to be the number 9. So that means I need to get 9 in my denominator so that we can compare. So let's look at my 3. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2, 3. And then for my 9, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by just 1. So now I'm going to multiply. So 1 times 3, this is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 2 times 1 is 2. And then 9 times 1 is 9. By comparing my 3 over 9 and my 2 over 9, you're going to see that your 3 over 9 is greater, which means that your 1 over 3 here is greater. So that means 1 over 3 is greater than your 2 over 9. Let's try the decimal format, method number 2. So if I come here, 1 over 3 as a decimal, this is going to equal 0.333 repeating. And then 2 over 9 as a decimal, this is going to equal 0.222 repeating. By comparing these two decimals here, you're going to see that your 1 over 3, your 0.333 repeating, is greater than the decimal underneath. So now let's look at method number 3. So if I cross multiply, so 9 times 1, this is going to equal 9. And then 3 times 2, this is going to equal 6. So if I compare my 9 and my 6, I'm going to see that my 1 over 3 is greater than your 2 over 9. So we know that this statement is a true statement. 1 over 3 is greater than your 2 over 9. Let's look at these two fractions here. And the question here is which fraction is greater? So I'm going to try my cross multiply method. So let's do 2 over 5 and then my 3 over 10 here. I'm going to cross multiply. So my 10 times 2, this is going to equal 20. And then 5 times 3, this is going to equal 15. If I compare these two numbers, my 20 is greater, which means that my 2 over 5 is greater. So if I have to answer this question here, which fraction is greater? That's going to be my 2 over 5. This is greater than your 3/10. So let's look at this question here. Which fraction is less? Let's try my decimal form, and then we're going to try the cross multiply method. So let's do decimal form first. We're looking to see which fraction is less. So 1 over 3 as a decimal, this is going to equal 0.333 repeating. And then 2 over 7 as a decimal, this is going to equal 0.2857, and it keeps going on and on and on. So by comparing these two decimals, you're going to see that your 2 over 7, this decimal here is smaller than the decimal on top. If I had to choose which fraction is less, then that is going to be your 2 over 7. This fraction is less than the 1 over 3. So now let's try the cross multiply method to see. If I cross multiply, 7 times 1 is 7, 3 times 2 is 6. So if I compare my 7 and my 6, again, you're going to see that your 2 over 7 is less than your 1 over 3. All right, so that is all for today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.